Hello there. As usual, I'm going to apologize for background noise. My puppy still wants to add her 2 cents, and my neighbors seem to be building something, so there's a lot of noise going on around me. Today I would like to talk about R2-D2 and, more specifically, whether or not he abandoned Anakin on Mustafar. A thought occurred to me the other day that R2-D2 has never had his memory banks wiped, or at least as far as I'm aware they haven't been wiped. We know C-3PO gets his memory wiped at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but there's no mention of that happening to R2. This means that R2 has an awful lot of knowledge stored in his memory. Droids are often overlooked in Star Wars, and are usually in the background. Kind of reminds me of shows like Downton Abbey or other shows like that where the hired help knew everything that was going on because they were often overlooked, and important conversations would happen in front of them without a second thought. It is kind of the same way with droids in Star Wars. They are often in the background of very major events. For example, we see that R2-D2 was in Anakin's ship after Anakin stormed the Jedi Temple when Anakin returns to see Padme and tells Padme that the Jedi tried to overthrow Palpatine. Just to back up a little bit, before Anakin tells Padme about the supposed Jedi rebellion, R2-D2 tries to tell C-3PO something, and C-3PO tells him, "Hush, you're too loud." Which leads me to think R2 is trying to tell C-3PO what is going on, or at the very least that something is wrong. After the droids' little exchange, they are both in the background while Padme and Anakin talk. We don't see what the droids are doing while Anakin and Padme are talking. They could be just listening in, or they could be having their own conversation. We just don't really know. Before Anakin leaves again, we do see R2-D2 tell C-3PO something, and C-3PO says, well, he is under a lot of stress. Then R2-D2 beeps something else, and C-3PO says, take care, my little friend. Then Anakin takes off for Mustafar with R2-D2. As usual, I'm going somewhere with this. Hang with me while I get to where I'm going. When Anakin arrives at Mustafar, R2-D2 jumps out of the ship and tries to follow Anakin inside. Anakin tells R2 to wait with the ship, and we see R2 do his nervous little stutter step with a lot of worried beeps. We eventually see Padme and C-3PO arrive on Mustafar. Then we go into Padme and Anakin talking and the duel between Obi-Wan and Vader. We don't see R2 or C-3PO for a while, so it isn't totally clear what those two characters are up to at this point in the story. There are several shots backed out while Padme and eventually Obi-Wan talk with Anakin. During these shots, C-3PO isn't visible in the cockpit of the ship or anywhere else that the camera shows. We also never see how C-3PO and R2 connect on Mustafar, or how they got Padme back onto Padme's ship. I think it would be really interesting to know what happened when these two droids met up and told each other what they had witnessed. Nevertheless, we know that both of these droids are on Mustafar during this whole exchange between Padme, Vader, and Obi-Wan, as well as for the duel on Mustafar scenes. We see R2 meet up with Obi-Wan right after Obi-Wan had the high ground. We then see C-3PO on the ship letting Obi-Wan know they got Padme on the ship, and R2 falls behind Obi-Wan onto the ship. And then R2 is next to Padme on the ship when Obi-Wan checks on her. R2 even makes some sad-sounding beep noises while next to Padme. So this means that R2 met up with Obi-Wan after the conclusion of the duel, willingly got on Padme's ship, and stayed on the ship when the four of them left Mustafar. At this point, it seems like R2 didn't even really look back or hesitate to leave Mustafar. So here's what I'm truly wondering. Did R2-D2 knowingly abandon Anakin on Mustafar after everything Anakin did in Revenge of the Sith, leading to him becoming Darth Vader? It also makes me wonder, is R2 one of the few characters that actually knows Vader and Anakin are one and the same? We have seen R2 come to Anakin's rescue a number of times in the Clone Wars series because R2 knows that Anakin will always come for him if he is in trouble. They have quite the bond and truly depend on each other. We also see that R2 is always up to something in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. So, with the exception of the sequel trilogy, it isn't like R2 just sits in the background not doing anything. I really have to wonder how much R2 actually knew and saw as far as what Anakin did when he finally gave into the dark side. Because with all the times that Anakin and R2 saved each other and were there for each other up to that point, it really seems like a huge statement that R2 didn't go back for Anakin on Mustafar. This led to me thinking that R2 might very well have known when Anakin did, what Anakin had become, and R2 chose to leave Anakin behind. Think about that for a second. R2 leaving Anakin behind because of what Anakin did and what Anakin had become. Which, if you want to take this point even further, this means that droids like R2 potentially have a sense of morality built into their programming, so that they know right from wrong and have the capacity to act accordingly. Honestly, this could turn into a whole philosophy discussion about consciousness, morality, and so on if you really start to think about it. All because we don't see R2 go back for Anakin, now Vader, on Mustafar. If you want to go even further down this rabbit hole, Chopper from Rebels is another scrappy astromech that looks out for his crew, sometimes grudgingly, but especially looks out for Hera. I have seen various posts trying to calculate the death count for Chopper because there are times when Chopper, while in an attempt to save his crew, does a lot of damage. I have seen estimates that his kill count ranges from a few thousand to over 50,000. So this then starts a whole new line of philosophical thought on the morality of what Chopper does to save his crew and protect the rebellion. At any rate, The more I'm thinking about R2, Anakin, and Mustafar, the more I'm leaning towards R2-D2 knew what happened, knew what Anakin did, and R2 just couldn't condone those actions, so he left Anakin on Mustafar to take care of Padme. And as we know, R2 eventually meets up with Luke and attaches to Luke in a way similar to the way that he was attached to Anakin. It makes me wonder if R2 missed his bond with Anakin and was able to find a similar bond with Luke, the son of one of his best friends. So what do you think? Do you think R2-D2 knew what Anakin did, who Anakin had become, and left him on Mustafar as a result? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, have a great day, and may the Force be with you.